Homicide investigators are hunting for the person who shot to death 16-year-old Ashley White inside a high school in Rosedale. A search that began as students hid under their desks while police locked down the school. The girl, who was described as a gifted athlete, well liked by everyone, was taken to Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center without any vital signs. The incident reportedly stemmed from a fight at a school sporting event. Police have not recovered a weapon.
Early this morning, a black male in his early 20s, identified as Adrian Black, was stopped and questioned by police in the Jane-Finch area. When asked what was in his knapsack, the situation escalated and the man was shot by police. Police discovered an unloaded gun in the man's bag. Witnesses are yet to come forward.
With the surge of violence in Toronto in recent years, the government has pledged to crack down on crime. An increased police presence to keep thugs in jail and off our neighborhood streets has resulted in some concern over whether the rights of the residents in Jane and Finch, and especially black youth, are being compromised in the name of restoring Toronto the good. Murder, drugs, prostitution, guns, gangs, bloods, and crips. Few could have imagined such American-style gang warfare in this city. Sadly, however, in recent times, in our own Toronto the Good, such images have become all too common. Children laying dead and dying, families overcome with grief and sorrow, communities reeling in shock and disbelief. A moral panic has spread as criminals become more brazen and violence has infiltrated places once considered safe. And at the center of it all is the notorious Jane-Finch community. The area conjures up images of horror and anguish. Join me as I take you inside the Jane-Finch community, or as many are describing it, Canada's very own Compton of the North.
The role of the police has changed historically, and as it evolved, they became protectors of the peace, which is what I support, and then where it becomes a little bit controversial is they become involved in order maintenance, maintaining order on the streets and society. And that's where the maintenance of peace sometimes shifts a little bit towards the stifling of political dissent.
What we do here in Jane-Finch is community policing. Because of Ashley White and Adrian Black, the city, as well as the community, want to see more proactive policing.
What do you mean exactly by proactive policing?
Well, we initiate investigation into suspicious activity and individuals. We do things like small zone policing, foot beats, but in order for it to work, we have to be able to investigate in an informal setting and just rely on our instincts as cops.
What does suspicious activity look like?
You learn with experience.
Proactive policing is what's destroying modern policing. Policing should be reactive. A crime is committed, there's a complaint, the police respond. Proactive policing is an attempt by the police to ferret out crime without complaints. It tends to be used in what's called consensual crime areas, whether it's drugs, pornography, prostitution, where the participants of the transaction are happy. They want it, so they don't complain to the police. So the police have to become proactive and enter that drug community or the sex trade community and engage in undercover operations and stings. And when you look at the cases that come out of the Supreme Court of Canada about rights violations, you'll notice they're almost all proactive policing cases.
You might be giving me a breathalyzer. She said, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I said, hey, there's always ways that we can warm up to that.
Robbery at 15 Tobermory in the Jane-Finch area. Suspect is a black male, approximately 5'7" to 5'11", wearing a dark, baggy hooded sweater. Suspect is considered armed.
B, look up. Sorry.
Where is it?
It's right by your foot.
Where?
It's gone. Right. Police just walk around here like if they own the place, but all them know about we is what they see on TV, you understand? So it's difficult. They try and understand we a little more. You know what I mean?
I think I do.
All right.
That's a nice suit you got there. Do you have anything else you shouldn't have on you? No, officer, but you might want to look behind you. Actually, we know exactly who we're looking for.
So what are some options of things people could say to the police if they want to kind of exercise their right either to not answer the questions?
Okay. Well, number one, as I mentioned before, you should ask, am I being arrested or am I detained? And see what happens there. And it's like, and sometimes you could say things like, officer, my name is Suzanne, what's your name? Engage them in conversation. You could ask them, you know, why you question me? Is there something going on?
Right. Now, what exactly is being detained?
Being detained is just a fancy word saying that you're stopped. You're stopped by the police. It could be quick, like walking down the street, what are you doing at this area? That's a quick detention. When you're driving a vehicle, that's a detention when they stop you because the police have stopped you and they're asking you questions.
Detained is very simple. You cannot leave. If you try to leave once you're detained, you will be charged with obstruct police. And the problem is, we don't know how long it is. There has to be a point where the citizen says, I've been here 20 minutes, I'd like to leave. But we don't know when that time is that you can leave without legal ramifications.
The other detention is investigative detention. That is when they're investigating a specific crime.
Okay.
Right, so they get the call, you match a description of someone, they see you walking down the street, and they're stopping you and questioning you.
The longer the police have you, the less likely you'll continue to maintain silence. It becomes just awkward socially and you start to talk.
So when does a detention begin?
Good question. It really,
Thank you.
in my opinion, as soon as the police stop you, you're detained. When they start asking more specific questions about a specific crime, the court will likely think you're detained. And when you feel like you can't leave, that's why I tell people it's best to ask, officer, am I detained or under arrest?
Hey there, buddy. What's up?
Not much.
Where you headed from?
School?
It's kind of late to be headed from school right now, isn't it?
I decided to stay late.
Yeah, I was kind of late. Yeah, I never stayed at school that late. So what's your name?
Mark. Mark Sims. What's yours?
I'm Officer Brady. This is Officer Tucker. Brady Tucker. There's a robbery over at Tobermory. We just want to know if you know anything about it.
No. Am I being detained?
Look, don't get hostile. We just want to know if you know anything about the kids over at Tobermory.
I didn't know they were kids.
Well, if I'm not being detained, I have to go home.
Listen, why don't you show us what's in your bag if you ain't got nothing to hide?
If I'm not being detained, you can't search me.
Sir, just cooperate. There won't be a problem.
I am.
What do we say about being hostile?
I'm not
Listen,
getting.
calm down, sir.
I am.
Calm down, sir. Relax.
I am calm.
Don't raise your voice.
I'm not
calm down.
I am
calm down, sir.
I'm calm.
So why did you let him go?
Well, the suspect was clearly hostile, but I had a feeling he had nothing to do with what was going on over at Tobermory, so I couldn't detain him.
So what rights do you have at that point when you feel like you're being detained?
Once again, a very difficult question to answer because there's just been a couple of recent decisions from the highest court, the Supreme Court of Canada.
What's trendy right now?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, okay.
So it depends on a number of factors, how long they stop you, how many officers are involved, the types of questions they use. And so if they find that you're detained and the courts say that, you know, you may have the right to counsel at that point. So what I would advise people, if they say you aren't detained, you should ask, well, can I speak to a lawyer?
Gotcha. And not run away.
Not run away.
What if I lie?
Yeah. I always tell people you can't get in trouble for not answering the questions.
Okay.
However, you can get in trouble for lying to the police.
Oh, okay.
And serious trouble. You can be charged with obstruct police, which is, you know, it's a fairly serious offense. But furthermore, you can even be charged with obstruct justice, which is a really serious offense.
Yeah,
right?
they added justice on the end.
Exactly.
That's much more serious sounding.
So the reason why detention is important because you can't be forced to confess. You can't be forced to. So anything you say to them, as you can see on TV, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say to them will be used against you. Yeah. They mean that. So at that point, when you're detained, even when you're talking to them casually, if they think you're involved in a crime, they'll use that against you.
want more bass and speakers. I've been on the hustle ever since they had Cantel beepers with the 8-ball jacket and Nguyen sneakers. A young D-boy learning from those ghetto teachers. Who'd have thought I would have been one of the bleachers? Ain't ceased the streets where youngins walking with heaters. Make these nerds from the burbs believers. Round here we don't play fair, so you can never.
So do you guys know about Adrian Black's shooting?
Obviously. It's on the cover of Toronto Star. Like, who hasn't seen it? Who hasn't heard about it?
Right. Well, what do you think about the shooting?
I don't even think Adrian even had a gun.
Like, why would he pull a gun on a cop? Like, really think about it.
Yeah.
I believe Adrian didn't provoke the cops at all. I think they're just lying.
I think he didn't deserve what happened to him.
They're obviously lying to protect themselves.
At the end of the day, it's their reputation, so if they have to lie to save themselves, then I think they'll do it.
Well, how do you guys feel about police in Jane-Finch?
They don't respect us, we don't respect them.
Exactly. They just look out for their reputation, and their reputation only.
That's why we don't tell them the truth, because at the end of the day they want to protect us and we have to live here.
Exactly. That's why they're surprised when something like this happens and there's no witnesses. Who wants to come to you when you harass us, you know?
Right. Is there anything else that you guys want to say?
Not really, just that we'll see when the next one of us dies.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
I'd come for a tornado, for sure. You guys seem like good kids. Okay.
I tell people, be polite and don't try to explain yourself out of the situation, because you don't know exactly what they're looking for, and there's chances that you may say something which is pretty innocent, which is a little piece of the puzzle they're looking for, and then the detention becomes a full arrest.
If you're not respectful, it's probably going to escalate, because police officers are people too.
Yeah.
You could explain to them that you do not want to talk to them and continue walking.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, it depends what the situation is. If they say they're investigating a crime, and you ask them if you're detained, they say no, and you continue walking, they may go after you, or they may just let you go.
If they ask for your ID when they stop you, do you have to show them your driver's license or your health card or anything like that?
No, if you're just walking down the street and you're just, mind your own business, you don't have to. There's certain exceptions, obviously, when you're in a car. Right?
Okay.
When you're in a car, they stop you, you have to provide them with the documents they ask you for.
Are there any questions at all that the police cannot ask you?
There's no harm in asking. Anyone can ask a question of anyone. It's no different than you're walking down the street and someone says, hey, you, can I ask you this? And you go, no, and walk on.
So they can ask me on a date if they want?
They could. I don't know if that'd be very professional.
Okay, no, right, but in that uniform, I think you know what I mean.
Yes.
All right.
So the police can do whatever they want. The question is, can they keep you on the spot until they're willing to release you? No one can ever force you to talk.
So you weren't involved in Adrian Black's shooting?
No.
Do you know any of the officers who were?
Yeah, one's a buddy of mine.
Do you have any details on the shooting?
Well, clearly the officers were just protecting themselves. I mean, the guy had a gun. He was dangerous. They acted reasonably.
But Adrian was killed.
Yeah, but, no officer wants to shoot anyone. These things happen.
Do you think Adrian pulled his gun out on the officers?
Sure he did.
Do you wonder how or why he pulled his gun out? I mean, do you know why the officers stopped him in the first place?
I'm really not sure. That's something you'd have to ask them.
I don't think they're that stupid.
Yeah.
I was told the gun wasn't even loaded.
Yeah, but how are you to know? How are you to know anything of what goes on out there? Things can get messy.
Right. Messy. What kinds of questions can the police ask you when they stop you in your car?
driver's license, insurance, and registration.
Okay.
Okay. You have to provide those. That's governed under the Highway Traffic Act in Ontario. If you don't provide them, you'll be charged with an offense under the Highway Traffic Act. They also they question you about sobriety.
Okay.
So have you been drinking? There's the ride programs as well. They question you about that. The fitness of your car. Is a car?
My car's fit.
Is it?
Yes,
Good.
it's fit.
Then
So
you'll
I
have
say
no
6
problem.
for a car.
Okay. So, but if the car's falling apart, they could question you about that, and they could actually impound the car as well.
They can stop your car pretty much randomly. And upon stopping your car, they could acquire plain view observations of contraband. They could see a weapon sticking up from under a seat, or they could see a baggie of marijuana. If they see things in plain view, it's over. They can search it. Just like a home or a commercial premise, they can also search your car on reasonable probable grounds. But the big question on car searches is, do they need a warrant? And unfortunately, even 20 years into the charter, I don't have a clear answer to that. There are some courts that say you always need a warrant. You can impound the car or just keep it on the side of the road till the warrant comes. And then there's other judges that say, come on, if the car could just disappear, you've got to have a warrantless power of search. Reasonable probable grounds is still generally the threshold for intrusion, and it's a bit of a question mark whether a warrant actually has to be obtained for the car.
Well, who that? Yeah, it's the kid out of the dumpster. You done spit that thunder. You done made bread like wonder. Some rappers is retiring now, no wonder. They saw me coming out the door, clear the building for George Reef, repping 5 Dutch Entertainment. I got them nervous like they facing a arraignment. I bring text.
And the police like to ask you a question that is none of their business. Like that. Question, none of their business.
Hi there. Where you heading?
Home.
Is this your car?
Yeah.
Any drugs, any alcohol tonight? Let me see your license and your registration.
And they're not allowed to search your car unless there's visible contraband.
Hello. What do we got here?
So hide your drugs.
What can police do if they think or they say that they smell marijuana on you or in your car?
Yeah, the courts have said, they've been very clear that smell is not enough to search a vehicle, a smell of marijuana, right? And that the reason for that is, clearly marijuana smoke, you could have smoked it a long time ago, and so you need something more than just the smell.
Right.
Often in practice, I find that police officers will say they smell marijuana and they use that as a grounds to search the vehicle. But the courts have said that you need more. So if they smelled marijuana and they saw like the end of a joint in the car, that might give them enough grounds.
Right. Yeah. What if they hear or taste marijuana?
If they hear, I'm not sure what sound marijuana makes.
Oh, okay. No, it's pretty mellow.
Okay.
It's quiet, but a well-trained ear can hear that for just ages. Are they allowed to question the passengers in the car?
Well, what I always tell people is that the passenger, they're not driving. So the whole issue about stopping when you're the driver, you're driving. It's a very dangerous activity, and the police have the right to monitor driving. As a passenger, you're not doing anything.
Right.
So when the police stop and they ask the passenger, if the passenger is not breaking any laws, remember I talked about provincial offenses laws. So, for example, open liquor. If you have an open liquor, you can't have open liquor in a vehicle. So if the police they see that, they'll question the passenger. That actually gives them the authority to search the vehicle as well.
Okay.
If the person's not wearing their seatbelt, that comes up a lot. They'll question them, and then you'd have to give your name and identification because they're going to charge you for not wearing your seatbelt if you're a passenger. But other than that, if you're a passenger, you're sitting there and the officer asks you a question, you don't have to answer. You could be polite about it and say, "Officer, I'm a passenger. I'm not driving. I'm not doing anything. I don't have to answer the questions."
Rosedale is one of the oldest communities in Toronto. I don't know if you know that. This is a typical Rosedale home, probably. Nothing special, though.
Right, not impressive at all. How much would a place like this be worth if you don't mind?
We really don't talk about those things, dear. It's not proper.
Oh, of course not, sorry.
This community is wonderful. We're very close-knit, which makes us old-fashioned, I suppose. But we're also very progressive.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. We have a lot of sushi restaurants in the neighborhood.
Sushi's popular.
I love my yoga and Eastern philosophy classes. We recycle and try to do the green thing. I'll show you my Chinese art out back.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
This is my Ashley. Isn't she beautiful?
She is.
The boys were crazy about her. Good athlete and student, too.
Do the police have any leads?
Well, they know that the suspect is from the Jane-Finch area. When Ashley was shot, there was a soccer tournament going on at the school and a bunch of kids from a Jane-Finch high school.
Right. Now, they've actually increased the presence of police in the Jane-Finch area recently.
Well, as they should. I mean, if these people don't know how to raise their children properly, well, the police just have to step in, don't they?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, have you ever been there? It's a very scary place. There are criminals and gangs and thugs everywhere.
I've never been, but I can imagine.
Right. Well, I mean, some people are saying that this proactive policing it's having a disproportionate effect on youth and racial minorities. Have you put any thought into that?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, well, people are complaining that there have been some unreasonable stops and searches, but in my mind, I mean, the police are just going off their instincts. They're going off, years of experience at spotting criminals.
All I can say is this city has changed so much since I grew up here. I went to elementary school, to graduate school. I just don't feel safe in my own city anymore. I mean, I can appreciate that policing is really complicated these days, but I think the police have to apply their tactics and their approach to the demographics of the community.
Absolutely. Sorry, what do you mean by that, actually?
Look, I just don't want any other mother to have to go through what I went through. There should not be guns in school, period. I just don't want this to happen to anybody else. They just have to get these monsters who shot my Ashley.
I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
Can I check my email?
Yeah.
What would you say to people who support the violation of rights for security reasons?
I'm not sure I have anything to say. They would need to speak more to psychotherapists than to a lawyer because they have a hysterical fear of crime. But it's not their fault. We live in a culture of fear. 9/11 contributed to that enormously. The summer of the gun, which, by the way, is a media conception, right? The police didn't call it the summer of the gun. So a lot of people are innocent bystanders of media hysteria, which is fueled by the police because they release the information. So what we've done is we've created a really apprehensive population. And by the way, apprehensive populations are the easiest to control. So right now the state is actually very happy. Harper is very happy that Canadians are afraid of the gun because, as you said, they will be much more tolerant of rights infringements because they feel pretty comfortable that their rights won't be infringed, so it'll be the people in the other parts of the city. So what? We're going to get some guns. It's not important about rights infringements. So I don't really have much to tell them because I could sit with them and look statistically at where we're at. And we are in a much better position than we've ever been in terms of crime. But it doesn't mean anything. This is a visceral, emotional reaction.
So when can police search you?
They could search you when they detain you. So when they detain you, you're under detention, they're talking to you. The courts have said, they don't know who you are. They're talking to you fairly close. The courts have said the police have the right to do what's called a pat-down search.
Okay.
And that means they, just as it sounds, they pat you down outside of your clothing. You're not removing anything. They just pat you down for officer safety.
Okay. Kind of fun, but...
No, yeah, not so much.
Touching the person should not happen routinely because it's a violation of privacy, but it also impairs dignity depending on how you're touched. People don't like unwanted touching.
When you are arrested, you're taken. They could do a more detailed search. They could search for further evidence.
Okay.
And as well as for officer safety.
Search incident to arrest can go very far. And we have seen it used often to do strip searches, even in public places, which is clearly unconstitutional. The scope of search incident to arrest is not well defined.
Now, what would happen if police illegally searched you and they found something like drugs or a gun?
Yeah, that's a very difficult answer to give these days, once again. It really depends on the circumstances.
Yeah.
The case that came down recently was a young black male in Scarborough. He was 19. I think around, at one point, 2 officers approached him and then 2 more. And they fully admitted they had no reason to approach him, that he wasn't doing anything, and they just thought he looked suspicious.
Well, yeah, but that being, looking suspicious is a good reason, don't you think? I mean, if he was a young black guy and he probably, like, baggy jeans probably and a hat to the side, it's kind of scary looking.
You see them running around with the pants hanging off their ass, the hats low, the hoodies, they walking, they crawling. I have a name for them. I call them OGs, obvious gangsters. Because when you look like that, the police will come out. It's like if they're waving a flag, hey, I a criminal, come, harass me, arrest me. So you have to care about yourself a little decent. Yeah, man.
Our charter, you've heard of it.
Charts.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I think I know the charter. I think
it's been
I do.
around for a while.
Okay.
It says that everyone has the right to not to be arbitrarily detained, right? Because, believe it or not, we're in a democratic society and people could wear baggy clothing if they like and wear their hat to the side if they like. So just because people do that, the courts have said, you need to more than that, right?
Oh, okay.
But this gentleman just was looking suspicious, and they spoke to him, and he had guns and drugs on him. And so the court said, there was a detention going on there. It was arbitrary because the police admitted that they had no reason to. However, they didn't exclude the evidence, because what happens is if you're charged with a criminal offense and you believe your rights were violated under the charter, your lawyer would bring a motion to the court to have the evidence excluded because the police violated your charter rights and didn't treat you properly.
Right.
The problem becomes they have to do this. It's a big argument, this big submission, and then at the end of it, the court decides should the evidence be excluded. And in this case, they didn't. I personally think just because it was guns and drugs.
Right.
I think it was something less serious they might have, but I don't know that.
It was becoming apparent to me and to other people that the lower courts and the appellate courts were starting to become less enamored with the charter. And the exclusion of evidence for obviously guilty people was weighing heavily on the court. The love affair was over in the lower courts. And so I found that, especially our court, the Ontario Court of Appeal, was starting to distort the test for exclusion of evidence. So when these cases went up to the Supreme Court of Canada, they knew they had to refashion the way we exclude evidence. Here's the horrible part of it, is it looks like the new test does facilitate a court saying, this crime is too serious to give remedies for rights violations. And as much as I am sympathetic to not wanting murderers to go free, you can't start dividing the criminal code into the offenses for which you have charter protection and the ones you don't.
Brady, there's 2. Come in. We have a black male suspect. Looks suspicious. Might be something going on here. You want to stop him up ahead, give him a little chat, see if there's anything we should be concerned with? Over.
Hey, what's going on there? Give your name and your address?
I got my health card still.
Let me see it. Hey, no, keep your hands in front of you, please.
Okay,
Come on, keep your hands in front of you.
course,
Keep your hands in front of you.
I'm Officer Tucker.
Officer Bluestein.
So you've ever been in trouble before?
I got trouble a long time ago, like 3 years ago. That's about it still.
Yeah. You got anything on you shouldn't have?
Got a small bag of weed still.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's in my pocket.
Come here.
So there's only a little bit of weed, small bag of
You
weed.
got anything else you shouldn't have on you?
No. I have a gun.
Hey,
Get down.
It's my duty to inform you that you have the right to remain silent and the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay. You have the right to telephone any lawyer you wish. You also have the right to free advice from a legal aid lawyer. If you're charged with an offense, you may apply to the Ontario Legal Aid Plan for assistance. We'll provide you with a number to a lawyer if you don't have one. Do you understand?
Get up. Get up.
Do you wish to call a lawyer now?
Come on, man, seriously. Are you from cops? You're from cops again, aren't you? I remember you.
When you're charged with a criminal offense, it means that the police believe that you did something, right? And they've charged you. And when they charge you, they could just release you from the scene. So, for example, you're on your bike.
Yeah.
They stop you. You have a joint on you.
I do.
They question you, and they've asked you, do you have anything on you? You offer up the joint. You're charged with possession of marijuana.
Right.
Okay. At that point, it's just a minor charge. You're a young person. You don't have a record. They're likely just going to charge you right there. They'll give you the paperwork and say you're charged. It's against the law. You have to go to court. Here's the paperwork. Your first appearance is this date.
Right.
And then they let you go. If they put you under arrest, that means that they take you into physical custody, take you to the police station.
The cuffs.
Yes.
The cuffs come out.
The cuffs come out. Yeah. The cuffs could come out when you're charged as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they could cuff you. Just because the cuffs come out doesn't necessarily mean that you're arrested.
What is the difference between an arrest and a detention?
Yes. A detention is similar to an arrest in that they assume custody of the person, but it has to be for a brief period of time in Canadian law. We only recognize the arrest power to allow the police to maintain custody for a minimum 24 hours, or actually it's a maximum 24 hours. So arrest really facilitates a number of things. It gives the police longer time to hold you in custody. It allows them to fingerprint you if it's an indictable offense, photograph you if it's an indictable offense. A detention is supposed to be a brief period of questioning, which should result in either an arrest if it crystallizes to reasonable probable grounds, or you're free to leave.
To be placed under arrest, you don't have to be told the magic words. You don't have to say you're under arrest. You can still be under arrest when you're, they don't say that.
I might not even know.
Yeah. But they're supposed to tell you what you're arrested for.
Okay.
Right? And they have to tell you that you have the right to a lawyer.
Right.
And they have to tell you, give you the number of a lawyer if you don't have it. So in Canada, in Ontario, we have the legal aid system on duty counsel.
Right.
So if you don't have a lawyer, there's the police. All the police officers at the back of their book have the 1-800 number for duty counsel, so you could speak to a lawyer. Right. The number one right is you have the right to remain silent. Right.
Yes,
I've
I know
explained.
that.
Right. Yeah.
I've heard
That's
that.
very important. No one ever listens to that right. But they always so yeah, you have the right to remain silent. And when they say anything you say to them will be used against you, they actually mean that.
So when can a police officer arrest you?
A police officer could arrest you if they see you committing a crime. So as I told you, the marijuana, right? They saw you. If they have a warrant for your arrest, which means that they have information to believe that you committed a crime, but for some reason they couldn't locate you. So they, instead of going out to arrest you, they couldn't find you, they put a warrant out for you. So it means that it's in their system. So if someone comes upon you and they see you, that means that the police could come in and take you into custody because there's a warrant out for your arrest.
Gotcha.
And they could arrest you if they believe that you've committed a criminal offense.
Sure.
As well.
Are there any questions you have to answer? No. However, for minor offenses, it's in your interest to answer one question, your name, because they will not release you for minor offenses on the street if they are not satisfied about your identification. Beyond that, there's really nothing you need to answer because nothing you say will help you. And if I can explain it this way, many people think I'm being arrested falsely. Let me explain my story. It's not going to work. Even if you explain your story, chances are you're still going to be taken into custody because they're going to have to check things. It's never happened that someone says to the police, let me tell you what really happened. They go, that's interesting, go home. It doesn't work that way.
So when you're brought back to the station, our law works is if you say you want to talk to a lawyer, they'll call a lawyer for you or duty counsel. You'll speak to a lawyer, and the lawyer's going to tell you, what do you think? The lawyer's going to tell you to keep your mouth shut.
Right.
The lawyer's going to say, don't say anything. Our law says, though, once you hang up with the lawyer, the police can start questioning you again. Because you've had the chance to speak to a lawyer, but now it's up to you to exercise your right to remain silent.
Right.
So, and that means that once you're at the station, they could question you at length, and you have to keep telling them the lawyer said not to say anything. They're going to try to, sometimes they use trickery, and the police can lie to you. The courts have said that they can lie to you at this point as well to investigate, and
Tell me about Adrian.
Adrian. That's one name I will never forget in my life. He was one of the greatest friends, neighbor, brother, classmate, you name it. He had 2 little sisters and a mother right next door to me. There's not a thing he'll do for his family, and it came down to it. He lost his life trying to help them out.
Now, was Adrian involved in any illegal activity?
If you've looked for countless amount of jobs, and I know I have helped him day and night look for jobs, and selling drugs is the easiest way to make money, and you're 12 years old trying to support a whole family, what would you do in that situation?
Do you think that being from Jane-Finch prevented him from getting a job?
I'm just a regular kid. I wouldn't be able to know if Jane-Finch, but I'm pretty sure Jane-Finch, once they hear that, they think this kid's gonna steal stuff. They really don't give them a chance. It's like a barrier.
Some people are saying that the shooting was justified because Adrian had a gun on him, which of course put the safety of the police officers at risk. How does that make you feel?
He had a gun. I know he had a gun, but think about this. If every day your life was threatened, you had to look back, and every day you thought you were gonna be robbed or mugged or even shot at, would you not walk around with something to protect your life? Yes, maybe he had the gun, but I will guarantee you with my life that he didn't pull it out on the police. He's too smart. There's so much for him to lose.
I'm sorry that this is so hard, but is there anything else that you'd like to say about Adrian?
I'm gonna miss Adrian. Who's gonna take care of his family? Is the police gonna take care of his family? What are they gonna do now? I'm done with these questions. I can't do it.
Thank you so much.
I can't.
Oh, please give me the search warrant. I wanted a search warrant.
Not until you search some white homes too.
Oh, but there's so many bums that are so much more suspicious.
Now, what if a police officer wants to enter your house?
Me personally, I don't let them in.
Oh, okay.
But they can enter your house by 3 ways. Number one, if you let them in. If you invite them in. If they come knock on your door and you say, sure, come on in. I usually don't advise that, but it's up to you.
If he's cute. Or she, whichever way. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Number two, if they have a warrant to arrest someone. So if they come to my house because they know that you're there and you've committed an offense.
Oh.
Yeah. They could,
Thanks for housing me, by the way. I appreciated that.
And they'd have a warrant that says, I have a warrant to arrest Sandra. They could come and get you at my house.
Okay.
And lastly, if they have a search warrant. A search warrant means that the police have gone to the court, to the judge, and say that I believe that there exists some evidence that's at this address there's so-and-so's committed a criminal offense, or there's some evidence that there's something there.
Roger, it's on your screen.
Otherwise, we've got 3 targets in through the back. Got it? Come on, let's go. Lock and load. Come on, let's go. Move. Let's go. Go. Take it down!
Put the pot fire on the ground!
What if you're never shown a copy of this search warrant?
The law says that they're supposed to show the search warrant. You're not even supposed to have to ask for it. They're supposed to show it.
Okay.
Really, the only remedy is, I always tell people that, when they come to search the house, it's not just going to be Officer Paul by himself.
Oh, I love Officer Paul.
Yeah.
He's my favorite of all the officers.
It's going to be Officer Paul plus at least, 5 other people and sometimes the, ETF.
It would probably be a violation that would be considered relatively minor in some cases, and therefore not enough to get the ultimate exclusion of evidence. So it clearly is a problem, but it's not a problem that's necessarily going to lead to a benefit to the accused.
Do you have a search warrant?
We have a search warrant to search his house and for this man. Do you know him? We found him across the street at a neighbor's house.
I want a copy of the search warrant.
Well, the search warrant, when it arrives, you'll get it.
So did you uncover any evidence in the raid this afternoon?
We weren't able to uncover any evidence related to the Ashley White killing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm told that the woman living here was never shown a copy of the search warrant.
I'm not at liberty to comment on that.
Okay. Are you at liberty to comment on why you were searching this house for a suspect who was already in police custody when you entered the house? Wait just a second. Are there any crazy situations where they can enter your house without a search warrant?
Yeah, there are. There's a few. Courts call them what's called exigent circumstances, which is a fancy legal word for emergencies.
It's a big word.
Also hot pursuit, obviously. If they follow you and you run into your home and shut the door, you can't go none on a boo-boo, you can't come in.
The most common is 911. You call 911, you get cut off for whatever reason.
The emergency.
Exactly.
I think.
You get cut off, and then the police show up at your door.
Oh boy, the damage of items. I've seen police officers who refold underwear and put it back in the drawer, and then I've seen officers who just crack the cupboard open. In theory, they have reasonable force, so they can break things if they believe there's evidence there, and you may not be able to get any compensation for that. But just like anything, there is excessive force that's used. And if you can show that gratuitous damage was done, in theory, you should be able to sue them and get money or negotiate with the police. But problems with that may be that you may be facing bigger problems, that you have a charge, and the fact that your cabinet has been damaged is really the least of your concerns. But I have seen some situations where the search was done so excessively in terms of property damage that the police actually negotiated settlements and paid for things.
Oh, yeah.
The purpose of rights is based on a mistrust of police. Not that we don't like them. I like police. But theoretically, we have to have a lack of trust and faith, because if we have too much trust in public officials, there's a tendency to say, do whatever you think is right for the country. Well, you know something? That's a nice idea. But unfortunately, if you give someone carte blanche, there's a tendency to just want to arrogate to yourself more and more power. So we set rights to set limits to state authority, because we know that power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So to prevent that from happening, we restrict the police in what they can do by creating rights for citizens, which were like immunity blankets, and that limits what the police can do. And that's the purpose of rights. It doesn't necessarily make people feel any better in terms of their day-to-day activities, but it gives them an assurance that they will not be intruded upon randomly and arbitrarily, because the rights require the police to jump through certain hoops before they can intrude on people's privacy.
If they don't obey those guidelines and you are charged with a criminal offense, your lawyer can bring certain applications in the court if they feel that the police violated your charter rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? So that's one way the police are held accountable. Another way is you could do a police complaint.
Yeah.
That's another way.
If I do a police complaint, do they know it's me or is it anonymous?
Unfortunately, right now, you can't do an anonymous complaint.
Yeah, no, I would be scared.
I know. A lot of people are afraid of doing police complaints. What I tell people is, I'll be honest with you, right now, a lot of police complaints, they don't go anywhere. They usually get dismissed. However, I tell them it's important to do police complaints because it's usually the same, you hear stories over again about the same officer doing something. And they just continue to get away with it because no one complains about it.
I've been patrolling Jane-Finch now for 10 years, and if you ask me, it's just getting worse. I think it's just parents not taking care of their kids. These kids want to live like they're in a rap video. Immigrants bringing their battles over here, not wanting to make an honest living. All these Vietnamese grow-ups popping up all over the place. You know what hard-working people like myself think about all that liberal talk? Just a bunch of excuses for these lazy welfare moochers. I see them every day sitting in their backyards, Escalades parked out front. I drive a 2001 Honda Accord. Get up at 6 o'clock every morning to go to work, barely have time to spend with my kids. You don't think my life was hard?
Racism exists in society. There's no reason to believe that it will not be in the same proportion among the police force because we do absolutely nothing to screen anybody in public office in terms of harboring racist beliefs. So whatever prevalence is in society will be the same prevalence with the police. The only difference is the police can affect a lot more damage and harm through that. So is it better or worse? Well, is it better or worse in society? I don't know. I think it's better than 20, 30 years ago, but that doesn't mean there's still a high proportion of police officers who harbor racist beliefs. And as times get tougher, racism will increase, unfortunately, because they always look to scapegoat people in tough times. So it's there, and I think the solution, and I don't know how this is done, is by making sure the right people join the force, because police do provide an indispensable service. We have to respect them. But if we really want to respect them, let's make sure we're getting the right people in. I would double or triple their salary. What the service they provide is more important than the service I provide. But first officer who infringes rights, you're out. None of this suspension with pay and exclusion of evidence. You can't do the job.
Growing up, we learned about the police, thought they were our friends, and then the older I got, the more fearful I got of the police.
Right.
It didn't start out like that when I was a child, but I think with the over-policing in our neighborhoods, it was very difficult.
It's critical to know your rights. You have to know when you're on the street that your rights are being violated. You may not be able to do anything about it in asserting it on the streets, but then you know that you can take action. And then when you speak with counsel or whoever's going to help you, you know that there's a problem that could rebound to your benefit. Knowledge is power. I just said use common sense when you assert it, but I just want to make sure it's clear that I would never suggest it's better to be ignorant about your rights. You got to know when and where to use it.
I think there's something about knowing your rights. So I think if someone knows that you're able to stand up to them, say you can't do this. I know what you did was wrong. I think there's some accountability there and a bit of maybe empowerment, perhaps.
Thank you for joining me as I explored the Jane-Finch community in the aftermath of Adrian Black and Ashley White's shootings. Clearly, the public perception is that violent crimes are increasing in the GTA. The deaths of these two young people have particularly resonated with the public consciousness. We have seen that this public fear has given police more reason to justify very discretionary, proactive policing. This has resulted in some rule stretching. Some people would argue that such rule stretching, which is essentially the narrowing of civil liberties, is necessary in these dangerous times. Before I began this project, I was one of those people. Canadians don't want American-style gang warfare exported onto our streets. But I wonder if we should consider that in the United States, this safety rationale has expanded police powers to the point where some people from certain areas can't even walk down the street without being stopped and searched for no reason. Has this rationale made our neighbors to the south any safer? It would seem that with more power would come accountability. Perhaps this accountability can save us from the American fate we so fear. But until we really understand the challenges facing Jane and Finch, I'm not sure we can ever really comprehend why Ashley White and Adrian Black suffered these tragedies.
Grateful, yeah. Yeah, this here don't back down from nothing. We back down, you front. We back now to back down, nothing. Bang out Beretta clips like Bond. The 007 back, my Mac in 11. Yeah, I'm double to my series of 7, to my Benz of 6, to the Air Force One with army that shoot guns. We got all this shoot thugs, well I spit shoot thugs. Political, I'm politicking like the Senate or the House. 4 years I'm in the house, crack selling in the mouth. Right, but this ain't George Bush, and this ain't George Watch. Yo, this is George Rayful. He a warlock, see he a warlord. Going to war, Lord, to hit the martial law. You been warned, y'all, born and raised with this animal instinct. No dash, think like some animals. Yo, it's the G-E-O, R-G-E, R-E-E, F-A-H. You know this man, and ain't nobody gon' hold this man. Cause if you know this man, yo, I'ma take it like a own this man. Yo, it's the G-E-O, R-G-E, R-E-E, F-A-H. You know this man, and ain't nobody gon' hold this man. Cause if you know this man, yo, I'ma take it like I own this man. Driftwood, hold me down. Jane-Finch, Borough, hold me down. Up top, show shot to the G-side block. Y block, hold me down. Tobermory, just hold me down. Southside, hold me down. From up top my block to the whole T-dot on my hood, hold me down.